In this series, we are going to decipher a book that can change your understanding of investments. It's The Psychology of Money. Timeless Lessons on Wealth, Greed, and Happiness. Published in September 2020. The author of this book is Morgan Housel, currently a partner at the Collaborative Fund, who was previously a financial columnist for the Wall Street Journal. You might have heard of Housel. His articles are frequently cited. While the book's title might seem commonplace and its content straightforward, Housel is a thoughtful individual, and there's substance in this book. It's not a book about investment and financial techniques. Housel's distinctive approach involves exploring historical patterns, combining history and context to examine things. His perspective is broad, using data to discuss macro-level topics and exploring how macro trends impact individuals. This book might provide you with a more fundamental understanding of financial management. In this lecture, we will talk about 3 principles. The first, and the core idea of the book, is that your behavior, not your intelligence or knowledge, determines your relationship with money. Consider 2 real stories. Ronald Reed, an ordinary person, worked at a gas station for 25 years and then as a janitor in a store for 17 years. He led a modest life and bought a small house for $12,000 when he was in his 30s. When Red passed away at the age of 92 in 2014, he left behind an $8 million estate. Reed left $2 million to his grandchildren and donated the remaining $6 million to local hospitals and libraries. What does an $8 million estate mean? In 2014, out of over 2.8 million deaths in the U.S., fewer than 4,000 individuals had a net worth exceeding $8 million. Reed didn't win the lottery or use fancy money-making methods. He simply invested his modest income in the stock market. Not trading, he bought blue-chip stocks and patiently waited. Another story features Richard Fuscone, a Harvard graduate with an MBA, who worked as an executive at Merrill Lynch. Fuscone retired in his 40s, feeling he had earned too much money. As a retirement gift to himself, he bought an 18,000-square-foot house with 11 bathrooms, 2 elevators, 2 swimming pools, and 7 garages. The maintenance cost alone was $90,000 per month. However, Fuscone couldn't afford this lavish house. He borrowed a lot of money. In 2014, due to inability to repay the loan, Fuscone had to sell the house, fetching less than a quarter of the purchase price. What do these stories illustrate? Firstly, luck. Extreme success depends heavily on luck. In a different era or country, Reed's investment strategy might not have been as successful. Believe it or not, investing isn't all about luck. It's a bit like playing cards, with a fair share of luck, but also requiring some skills. Fuscone's story demonstrates that understanding the technical aspects is far from sufficient. While Fuscone was knowledgeable, his technical expertise didn't play a significant role in his personal financial decisions. The reality is that many exceptionally smart people make a lot of money and then, like Fuscone, lose it easily. Instances like these make you question whether financial management is a genuine skill. If an engineer, with a few years of training and work experience, can perform brilliantly in their job without making particularly foolish moves, why doesn't financial knowledge have a similar effect? Housel believes the fundamental reason lies in the psychological aspect of an individual's money investments. Ideally, your financial decisions should only relate to your present and future. How much available money you have, the current investment options, and your plans for the future. These shouldn't be influenced by your past, right? In reality, it's not so simple. Investment behavior is significantly influenced by a person's past experiences, because these experiences can impact one's psychology. The second principle is that experiences in youth shape one's understanding of money. Numerous studies confirm this principle. Essential beliefs and ideas often form during youth, within a certain window of time. Derek Thompson, in Hit Makers, mentioned that people's food preferences develop during childhood. The flavors your mother cooked when you were young become your favorite flavors. Even if you later live abroad for decades, you still prefer the taste of your hometown. Musical preferences are formed between the teenage years and the 20s. The music you liked in high school and college tends to be what you enjoy for life. Political inclinations form in one's 20s and 30s. Sapolsky, in Behave, also stated that the social class a person's family belonged to during childhood determines the biological stress they experience, affecting their personality and behavior throughout life. Housel references a 2006 study in the book, which investigated the financial behavior of American consumers over 50 years. The study found that investment behavior is highly related to experiences in one's youth, showing generational characteristics. Do you like investing in stocks? It depends on your perception of whether the stock market is a good thing, and this perception depends on your experiences with the stock market during your youth. Let's look at this chart, which depicts the performance of the S&P 500 index during a person's cognitive window period from age 13 to 30. If you were born in 1950, during your teenage years, the entire stock market barely rose. You never heard of anyone around you making big money from stocks, and the media didn't pay much attention to the stock market. The stock market was non-existent in your formative years. Will you enthusiastically buy stocks after turning 30? Conversely, if you were born in 1970, it's an entirely different story. During your youth, you witnessed the stock market almost multiplying by 10, with occasional fluctuations, but generally rising. The media talked about the stock market all the time, and you heard many stories of people making big money from stocks, and those who regretted not getting in. You would be more inclined to see stocks as a great investment. Perhaps your generation might share similar views on the stock market. Of course, this is a very rough description, as each generation has various individuals, and the stock market is largely driven by institutions rather than individual investors. Institutions are more rational, and maybe the stock market doesn't care about what you think about it. Still, what matters to you is how your beliefs influence your actions. Take bonds, for example. Look at this chart depicting the inflation rate in the United States. If you were born in 1960, during your youth, the value of the dollar depreciated threefold. Your intuitive feeling was that prices were constantly soaring, and you would believe that keeping money in hand, in the bank, or even buying low-risk but low-interest rate bonds would be foolish. But if you were born in 1990, it's a different story. The inflation rate during your youth was low. You never experienced significant price increases, and your impression was that money retained its value. You would consider buying bonds a good choice. You might argue, can't these generations just look at each other's data and know? But that's not effective. The point is, you need to experience it firsthand to develop a profound understanding. It's akin to convincing grandparents who love traditional Chinese opera to switch to hip-hop. In the eyes of Americans, the factories of Foxconn in China are sweatshops and should be boycotted. But for many Chinese, especially the young generation who moved from rural areas to work at Foxconn, that job is acceptable. And perhaps they can't comprehend why the younger generation in China, like those born after 2000, wouldn't accept such work. Another example is the lottery. Americans spend more money on the lottery each year than on movies, games, music, sports, and books combined. Who loves buying lottery tickets the most? The poor. Most Americans are not affluent, with 40% of them unable to come up with an extra $400. So, how much do the lowest-income households spend on lottery tickets annually? $412. In other words, these poorest families use their last bit of money, the money that could have been used to provide security, to buy lottery tickets. Doesn't this feel like a desperate gamble? It's all about differences in perception. You might find this behavior crazy, while they may think it's rational. What seems like an ordinary life to you, like going on vacation, is unimaginable for poor Americans. But the lottery gives them a chance at something better. Put yourself in their shoes, wouldn't you want a glimmer of hope in life? Don't judge others' actions lightly without experiencing their lives. The third principle is that it is difficult for people to adapt to a new thing quickly. Contributing money to your retirement account is the simplest and most cost-effective investment you can make. This money is tax-deductible, and your employer usually matches it to a certain percentage. So, why don't Americans like saving for retirement? Because retirement is a relatively new concept in the United States. Before the 1960s, almost no Americans had the concept of retirement. Most people over 65 continued working. Social Security provided very meager benefits initially, only reaching a level equivalent to $1,000 by today's standards in the 1980s, which was insufficient. The idea of someone over 65 being able to live off retirement funds is a very recent development. If the societal mindset lacks the awareness of saving for retirement, it's challenging to convince someone to contribute to a retirement account. Take student loans as another example. Currently, student loans are a massive issue in the United States, with 1/4 of Americans still repaying their student loans, and many people in their 40s are still doing so. Yes, going to college is crucial. However, if you consider the economic aspect, the difference in income between going to college and not going might not justify the extent of student loan debt. Why do people go to great lengths, even at the cost of high debt, to attend college? Because the widespread access to higher education happened relatively late. People knew that college graduates were impressive, but they didn't realize that the status of being a college graduate had depreciated. The parents of this generation didn't have the experience of repaying student loans. The inspiration from this video is that you can't overestimate the power of reasoning. Learning, calculating, and thinking are easy, but feeling is different. Simply hearing about a stock market crash and experiencing one, losing all your assets and not knowing how to explain it to your family, these two feelings shape people very differently.